I'm pleased to be joined by Iowa tight end Sam LaPorta. Sam, how you doing?
Doing well, RJ. How about yourself?
I'm good, sir. Thank you for taking time. I want to start with this. How much better do you think the Iowa offense can be in 2022?
Yeah, we're really excited for the year, and I think we're taking major strides in the off season. Another year to get better with all the guys, and a lot of returning starters. So we feel really good about the offense this year.
And you in particular had a huge leap in 2021. I think it's 53 catches, something like 670 yards. What led to that outburst for you?
Yeah, just a lot of hard work, and my teammates and I just always striving to be the best player that we can be. So a lot of the same stuff going on this off season. Weight room grind, spring ball, stuff like that. So we're excited. I'm excited for another great year, hopefully.
As a recruit, you were hard to miss, and now everybody knows and sees you coming. But you're also an Iowa tight end, I should say. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think carrying on the legacy of a lot of the greats, they laid the foundation for tight ends like myself to come into the program and have successful careers. So, just going back and getting able to watch the film that they've put out, starting in the 80s with Jonathan Hayes and Marv Cook up until, recently with guys going to the NFL and having a lot of success, T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, George Kittle. So, yeah, a lot of those guys I look up to, and they always reach out to me and make sure that I have everything I need to have a successful career here. So it's awesome.
Watching film of those guys,
mm-hmm.
What'd you pick up?
Oh, yeah, a lot of minor details that, every player has their own little way of doing things, and just being able to, recognize those small details and idiosyncrasies in their games and just getting to write stuff down and, trying to implement some of the stuff that they did in my game it's really cool to watch.
Have you had any success in implementing some of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, small stuff, head nods and stuff on certain routes that have, progressed through the years with the Iowa offense. So, yeah, little stuff.
But see, that's the kind of stuff that college football fans love to hear about. I wonder about footwork. I wonder about hand placement. Right. I wonder about your chemistry with Spencer Petras. How is that?
Yeah, I think it's as great as ever. Alex and Spencer are both great quarterbacks, and I know that they're leading the offense. They're the generals on the field, and they're always getting us in the best play possible, so setting us up for success.
Last year was huge for Iowa as making a trip to the Big Ten championship, even reaching number 2 ranking during the season. What did you feel, if anything, from fans about how good it felt for them to see an Iowa football team perform that way?
Yeah, there was a lot of enthusiasm surrounding last year's season, and with the COVID season with minimal fans in the stands, mostly friends and family. It was really cool to be able to pack Kinnick Stadium again with 70,000 plus fans and best fans in the country. So they supported us all the way, first game to the last year, and we're expecting the same thing this year. I think we already have 5 sold out games, so we're expecting a great year.
Now, Kinnick is a tough place to play.
Extremely.
Right? Who are you most excited to play against this year?
I mean, we're always looking forward to the opening game. I think that's always something that, you're training starting in January all the way up until the beginning of the season, and emotions are high. You just want to get on the field. And, so we're really pumped for that first game for sure.
One of the guys that caught my attention during this recruiting process, this 2022 season, is Aaron Graves. Have you got to see any bit of him?
Yeah, I have a little bit. We haven't put on the pads yet, a lot of summer conditioning and training, things like that. But fall camp's only about a week away now, so we'll definitely get a better look at Aaron here in the near future. But we're excited for him. He's a great young player for us.
He looks like the kind of dude that Coach Ferentz made in a lab, honestly, from the GPA to what he's been able to do. I find that really remarkable that he's been able to progress in such a way. What do you think it takes to play defensive line at Iowa as you're practicing against those guys?
Yep. I think there's a lot of attributes that a defensive lineman needs, but more so in general with our program, you got to be hardworking, you have to be time efficient, you have to set your priorities straight, and Aaron's doing a lot of those things right. And like I said, we're really excited for him and the attributes that he's bringing to that class. So,
one of the things I thought was most interesting is about how you got spotted in the first place. I believe it was on a recruiting trip when Coach Woods was going to see A.J. Epineza, and then got wind of you.
Yep.
What was your first encounter with Iowa football?
They reached out to me in the summertime of my senior year, inviting me to a camp, and it was about June, I'd say, and I went up there, and I thought that I had a great camp, and then they were kind of in and out of touch for the next few months, and then, like you said, Coach Woods showed up to one of my basketball practices maybe a week or two before the big signing day, Division I signing day, and yeah, it was really cool to see them show back up on my doorstep, and I was really pumped for the opportunity, But yeah, it was cool that Coach Woods came full circle.
It's also kind of intimidating to walk in there and they want you to play tight end, knowing what those guys before you were about. How do you ingratiate yourself into Iowa Hawkeye football and then take over that position?
Yeah, I think it just starts with hard work, and there was a lot of great leaders in the tight end room, especially when I was a younger player, just trying to show me how things were supposed to be done and the opportunity that we have, really trying to sink that in with me and just so I understood that a little bit better.
You've been through a lot at Iowa, right? We're talking about COVID. We're talking about the 2021 season. I wonder, you specifically, how do you feel about college football and the way it's changing?
Yeah, I mean, it's an ever-evolving game, and like I said, the opportunity that I have and my teammates have to put on the pads and, just to go out there and compete and play a game that we love. I mean, we take it for granted a lot of times, but, I mean, I think it's hard not to see the opportunity that we have in retrospect or, stepping away and taking kind of an outside perspective. It's just a really wonderful opportunity for all of us.
I'm looking forward to seeing you take advantage of that opportunity in 2022. Sam LaPorta, thanks so much for taking the time.
Appreciate it, RJ.
Right on, man. I'm pleased to be joined by Iowa head coach Kirk Ferentz. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great.
Thanks, Coach. Now, I wanted to start with 2021, honestly. It's an outstanding year for you. Tremendous ups, tremendous downs. Yeah. But that defense was absolutely astounding. How do you replicate those takeaways, particularly through the air?
Well, you nailed it. I mean, it was just it was a really good year. We got off to a fast start. Played 2 ranked teams right off the bat. Next thing you know, we're 6-0 after beating Penn State at home. But then had 2 really tough losses, and we had a bye week in between. That's not always a good thing. So it was 3 weeks of just kind of looking internally and seeing what we could do to move forward. But so proud of our team. They did a great job of fighting back. None of those last 4 games were easy. They were all tough, difficult wins that we really had to earn. And I think it really speaks to the perseverance and the heart that our football team had. So, now we flip the calendar and it's a whole new year, whole new team, whole new season, new challenges. But to your point, one thing we've tried to do for 23 years is really make sure we're going to put a good defensive football team out on the field, start there, be good in the kicking game, and then find ways to win.
I'm very familiar with Iowa football only because I grew up with Bob Stoops as my head coach, right, at Oklahoma. That was my team. Yep. And I understand what he means to Iowa football and how much he supports it. I say all that to say, how good is Riley Moss in your time at Iowa as a safety?
Yeah, so first let me start with Bob. When I got to Iowa in 81, Bob was a junior. And one of our leaders, it was a historic season. We had 19 straight losing years and end up in the Rose Bowl that year. And I remember, like yesterday, playing Michigan State in our last game, Bob hit their tight end, I believe it was, right in the ribs. He was going up for a ball. Ball shot up in there. I think Andre Tippett came by and swooped it up and took it almost for a touchdown. But that just ignited the crowd. But that was Bob, just a tough, hard-nosed, tenacious player, and obviously a really great football coach on top of that and a great human being. Now, his wife, Carol, is really she's more Hawkeye than Bob, but they're both Hawks and so proud they're both graduates. So, it's great that way. You transition forward here defensively with our football team. We've been done a good job in the turnover game, if you will. And there's, somebody asked you about that. There's really no drill you do for it. It's just, I think, players understanding what they're doing and then doing a great job. Good anticipation, good preparation. And then obviously you got to be working and hustling on the field. And Riley Moss, you mentioned him. He made the decision to come back. I think that could have gone either way back in the wintertime. Sometimes as a coach, at least over the years, I've learned to experience, can be a little concerned about, how's that player going to approach that last year. And I don't think we have anybody on our team working any harder right now, just doing extremely diligent. And on top of that, taking a real active role as a leader. So he's a tremendous young man, a really talented player. And we're hoping for a fully healthy year. Last year, he had to go through some injury issues.
One of the things that I love about your program, your football team, is you're going to be fundamentally sound. You're going to not beat yourself. You're going to run the ball. You're going to play defense. How nice was it, though, to see those fundamentals on a national stage, that October being such a big deal for Hawkeye fans?
Yeah, that's really our best method for winning. I think probably most people, but learned a lot of things in the 80s from Coach Fry. And if you looked at our teams, I mentioned that 81 team, that's how they were wired. They were really a good defensive football team, good special teams, and we did what we had to do on offense. But to me, the game's all about fundamentals, and if you're not paying attention to that, you really open the door for some disappointment. And if you do pay attention to it and maximize it and really coach it and work it, and most importantly, the players have to believe in those things. Then you've got a chance, I think, maybe to do a little bit more than you're supposed to, and that's really what the Penn State game came down to. You know, some good heads-up play on our defensive side, and then some timely plays on offense.
One of those players being Sam LaPorta. I had the pleasure of speaking with him earlier. I really love the story of how he was spotted, and I wonder how it got back to you from Coach Woods. Hey, there's this kid that I went to go see on my way to go see AJ that we probably need to go take a look at.
Yeah, well, you know, tight ends are really interesting from the standpoint. Nobody plays with a tight end in high school anymore, so you're always projecting, at least it seems that way. TJ Hawkinson comes to mind. But then the basketball component also, guys, typically our best tight ends have been good basketball players. Sam was that way. So, yeah, we've had, you know, good luck that way, and we try to look a little further maybe at times. All that being said, we got on Sam late. We almost blew that one. And the other thing I'd throw in about Sam, he's not only a good player physically, but the energy he brings to the field, and he just totally enjoys the game. I'm not saying he's Dallas Clark, but he's a lot like Dallas. And, you know, Bill Polian once told me, he says, Dallas loves everything about football, including, I think, getting his ankles taped. And it's a good way to describe Sam, the same thing.
I'm excited to see what he's capable of in 2022 after a monster 2021 year. One of the players, though, that I haven't seen that I'm very eager to see, maybe this year, maybe down the road, is one Aaron Graves. And I want to start by asking this question. Did you grow this kid in a lab like 18 years ago? Because he feels like he's tailor-made for what you do and what your program stands for.
Wish I was that smart or that talented. I'm certainly not. But, yeah, he's a great story. Aaron is just a tremendous young guy. He's a good football player, a really good prospect. We're excited. He's joined our team now this summer. But just such an impressive young guy. And it's interesting when a player commits that early. Sometimes you get a little nervous about that. But, you know, all he's done is just continue to grow and improve. And probably the thing that maybe is as unique as anything is the fact that he played basketball and wrestled. That's highly unusual, and the wrestling in our state's pretty good. It's pretty competitive. So for him to go out and do what he did, I thought that maybe as impressive of the thing as he's done athletically thus far.
Adding that, the GPA, the associate's degree, I mean, it all comes together for him in a hurry. One of the things, though, that I've always been astounded by with your program is your ability to retain players and to grow them and to get them to trust you as underclassmen. Hey, we're going to grow you up. You're going to get your opportunity. Just stick with us. What's the day-to-day messaging like to keep that sort of focus? You know,
I just think the best thing about football, and always has been, is the camaraderie and the respect for each other, working with each other, and, you know, really enjoying the work, because that's really what football is all about, is preparation, work, and the people. So I tell recruits that all the time. If you're really not interested in working pretty much year-round nowadays, and if you really don't enjoy the people you're with, then you're probably at the wrong place. And so I think it starts with recruiting. I think our staff's done a really nice job of identifying guys that might buy into the way we do things. And then most importantly, when we get there, and I'll go back to the 80s, you know, we've had some fantastic, I'm not saying great players, I'm just saying great guys to coach and be teammates with. And that's been the one commonality for me since 1981, my first exposure to the program till now. And with the world changing like it is right now, all the challenges that are out there, the single best thing still is watching our guys train, work out, be in meetings with them, be at meals with them, because they're great young people.
Well, Coach, I also want to transition to a much larger issue, one that involves expansion we'll get to. But I wonder, with all this that you've seen going back to 1981, how do you feel about the future of the sport?
Concerned. Yeah, concerned. And I coached 6 years in the NFL, so I'll draw a parallel there. The good thing about the NFL, in my opinion, a lot of good things, but one of the good things is there's a salary cap. So there's a limit on how much you can spend, and there's also a basement line too. So you can't just, you know, totally tank a season or whatever. So that's one thing that's under control, and then everybody in the NFL plays by the same rules. So those last two teams that were playing last February, you know, they earned it the hard way. They earned it a fair way, and it's 32 teams with equal opportunity. So I think that's kind of the essence of sports. That's what it needs to be. And I do get concerned watching right now. I think there's too much gray area in what we're doing in a lot of levels right now. And I'm not sure it's going to be good for the sport long term. I'm all for our players getting benefited and being supported. I think that's great. The revenues jumped significantly the last 10, 15 years, and That should have been part of the plan, in my opinion, profit sharing, if you will. So they need to be rewarded, and I'm all for that. But they're also, I think all of us would appreciate, at least I speak for myself, just some commonality in terms of what the rules are, playing rules, staff sizes, etc. So, at least when you go out on Saturdays, it's an equal chance. And I'm old enough to remember teams winning by 77-7 back in the 70s. I'm not sure that was great for college football. I know it wasn't good for either team involved in that game. And I think at least the last 20 years, there's been a lot more parity in college football. I personally think that's good for the sport.
My last one for you, Coach, pertains just to the Big Ten, but it is about expansion. And how do you feel about USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten? I'll also add, you got this holiday win against one of these teams that they might have wanted to forget about that you might have to remind them about.
Well, it's probably just one more illustration of where we're going in college football. So certainly geography was not a factor. And I think, what we are seeing right now, some of the old traditions we think of, you think about Oklahoma and Nebraska, you think about Texas and Texas A&M, so those things are a thing of the past right now. So that's just part of the deal. Geography is not quite as important as it used to be. Traditions aren't quite as important. And I think TV is important. That's one thing I have figured out in 23 years. So whatever TV's thinking is probably where we're heading.
Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz, thank you so much for your time, sir.
My pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 ranked show YouTube channel.